All right, all right, all right. Welcome to the Tuesday Night Principal Chiropractic broadcast, sponsored by DE and Band of Brothers around the world. Um, DE is coming up in April. It's in beautiful Sarasota, Florida. Again, hopefully you've been to Sarasota for DE. If you haven't, you need to get there because this is, I think, one of the last ones we're going to have there at the DE in Sarasota. So make sure you get with Kat. The hotel block. It's too late right now to get in, but she does have a waiting list. So if you haven't made arrangements to get to DE, make sure you register with Kat as soon as possible to get whatever hotel rooms are left from the block, and or maybe we can get you into a hotel near. Again, the DE is in April. And we are the block is taken up, and the schedule is April 13th through the 16th, and it's in sunny Sarasota, Florida. I apologize, I lost my mind here for a second. And a few other things is the party is Saturday night. It's going to be from 10 till midnight, so it's not going to be at the pool like we normally do it, and that's important. So if you're going to come to the party, it's from 10 o'clock to midnight in the boathouse. So it'll be a little bit later, that we have plenty of time to go out and get dinner, plenty of time to watch the sunset, and then come back and have a great time at the boathouse. It's an awesome place, awesome hotel. Everything is good there. And one thing that I want to make sure you do is register for the DE, also register for your staff and register your kids. Rarely do we have DE kids, but we have DE kids here in Sarasota. So bring your family, and we will have the DE kids available for everybody. It's a wonderful place for to bring your family. And tonight's speaker is Josh Freemyer. Josh is from Winter Garden, Florida. I met Josh way back. He's been a chiropractor for 10 years. He went to school in Palmer, Florida. And I remember him very well as a student selling me stuff. And we were just talking about, I thought he sold me the raffle tickets, but actually back then the fundraisers were T-shirts. And I remember he and his wife, their energy was awesome. Josh has been in practice for 10 years, like I say, up in the Orlando area. And now he is the vice president of the Florida Chiropractic Society, or excuse me, yep, FCS. And I'm sure someday he'll be the president of the Florida Chiropractic Society. And I know Josh well enough to know he'll probably be the president of the ICA someday. So you're looking at one of the rock star leaders we have in DE, the young guns. And he's married. He's got 4 kids. Got a great life. Got a great practice. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Josh Freemyer. Have a great one, there, brother.
Hey everybody, Andy, thank you for the warm welcome. Appreciate those memories sitting around the table with you as a student, and getting to see you grow and come back to DE. So it was really neat because my first DE was one of the first couple that you had come back to, or had come to, and you were just starting your journey, and you're amazing, and everybody can look up to what you've done. So we appreciate you. Tonight, I just want to talk with you guys a little bit. Like Andy said, I'm Josh Freemyer, Vice President of the FCS. Don't get that mixed up with the FCA. We are not the FCA. We are the FCS. We're the leader in chiropractic in the state of Florida, and we believe in the country. So join up, be part of the movement. We're already getting rid of the CCE in the state of Florida. That's what we're working on now. So let's do this. I have 4 kids. My oldest is Ben. He's 13. I have Sarah Beth, who's 11, Kinsley, who's 9, and Ruthie, who is 7. So we got a full house and plenty of energy around. Right here in Winter Garden, Florida, just up from Disney. So we get people coming in town all the time. And anytime you're in town, give us a call. We'd love to have you visit, and love people coming by the office. So come on in. I work at Source Family Chiropractic with Alex Apatnik. We've been there for 10 years and have been serving this community, and it's been a lot of fun. We both, grew up learning the way to practice in DE, And, as students really dove in, and that's where I got my start in chiropractic. And I think the last time I was on one of these calls, I told my story about kind of my journey through chiropractic school, how it went, how I came to become a chiropractor, all those things. Um, but one of the biggest things that, kind of hit me during that process, and as I think back about my history in chiropractic, is the fact that when I received my first Atlas adjustment, I I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I take insulin, and you'll see my pump on the arm and all that fun stuff. But the first time I got my Atlas adjusted, for about 3 months, I used about half the insulin that I normally did. And so it was shortly after I came to DE that I received that adjustment. I really dove into chiropractic and the philosophy and what it really meant. Um, and the principles in DE really spoke to my heart and spoke to really how we practice today and how we take care of people. So, what I want to talk to you guys about today, or with you guys today, is something that's kind of personal to me, but I believe it affects a lot of us as we practice on the day-to-day basis, and it really affects our life as well. And the idea that I want to kind of bring up tonight is that idea that we've heard at DE over and over again, that we have to accept chiropractic in full faith. Um, and my story with the philosophy of chiropractic and learning about chiropractic, comes back to the fact that the principles made complete sense to me. And so when I went into practice, I was all about it, especially after having the experience I did after that first true adjustment, is really what I believe. Um, and so I put tons and tons of faith in chiropractic and in how that chiropractic could change my life and change other people's lives. Um, and I was putting my faith in all the stories I could tell of all the miracles that happened, and the stories of my friends' miracles and my miracles. And really, we built our practice on those stories, right? On those results. And so when we come back to accepting chiropractic in full faith, um, we have to look at faith, and where does faith fall into things. And so faith is a subject that crosses lots of boundaries, right? A lot of people kind of get uncomfortable when we start talking about faith. But when we put faith in something, we're putting faith in something that we trust, right? And so it's crucial to know and define what we put our faith in, right? So, for an example, if I go rock climbing, which I grew up doing, I grew up in Colorado, didn't move to Florida until I was in high school, right? So I grew up rock climbing, and I grew up doing the zip lines and those type of things. And every single time you're about to get up on that wall, or jump off that platform, most people have done something like that in the past. Even if you're a little kid doing it at the fair, right? We look at the equipment, we look at the carabiners, right? We look at the ropes, we look at the harness, right? Because we're putting our life, really, we're putting our faith in those things, right? We're putting our faith, and we're trusting that they're going to support us, they're going to hold us up there, they're going to keep us from hitting the ground if we fall, right? And so we want to really test and recognize the reliability of what we're putting that faith in, right? And if that harness is all torn up or the rope is frayed, I'm out. I'm not doing the rock climbing. I'm not jumping off the platform with the zip line, because, right, when we have that full faith, we know we're supported. And when we don't have that full faith, we're kind of wobbly on what we're going to do. It's hard to make decisions, right? So when we're moving towards something, we have to know what we're putting that faith in and how that works. Um, and so this is where it kind of comes back to my story. Um, all my kids, my son Ben was born in my first quarter of school. Um, I was the next day after he was born, I had to go take my midterm. So no stress there or anything, but I got it done, and now I got a license, so we can make this happen. But and then my daughter Sarah Beth was born right before I graduated, and After that first adjustment of mine, I went into practice, and Alex and I were both on fire for chiropractic. And I used to tell people over and over again, you know, if I had been adjusted since the time I was born, I probably wouldn't have diabetes right now. And I said that with complete conviction, um, because I believed it. My life had been changed by chiropractic. My story had been changed by chiropractic, right? And the things that were going on in my life were different because of chiropractic. And so I kept telling that story over and over again. And, this person probably wouldn't have that disease if they had been adjusted since they were a baby, or this and that, right? And so what I was doing, was telling people what I believed, right? Chiropractic was amazing, and, that body functioning was incredible, right? But when I was about 4 years into practice, my daughter, Sarah Beth, was playing one day. She was sick for a couple days, not feeling great. Um, Hopped up in my wife's lap, and my wife goes, her breath smells a little funny, a little sweet. Wonder what's going on. And so, being a diabetic, I had the blood sugar monitor there at the house. We took her blood sugar, right, and she was, I think, 180 or 190 at that point. And we go, okay, something going on. But sometimes when kids are sick, their blood sugar fluctuates and it'll go up as they're fighting something. And so we waited a day, tested again. The next day was 200. After a couple of days, we were looking at 230, 240 in her blood sugar, and we're like, okay, there's something going on. And called I didn't have a pediatrician. I adjusted my kids since they were born, right? So I didn't really think they needed to see a pediatrician or anybody. So I called the endocrinologist right away. And they said, okay, bring her in. We'll do some tests. They said, hey, this is one of the earliest cases we've ever seen of type 1 diabetes, because we had noticed it so soon. We didn't allow her to get into ketosis or any of that kind of stuff, really. And so as they applauded us, we're like, hold on a second. We know what this is. We've been living with this. I've been living with it since I was 12 years old. It's not a fun thing, right? A lot of responsibility, a lot of things are going to change in her life. And as that happened, all those times I was telling people, hey, if I was born or if I was adjusted since the time I was born, I probably wouldn't have diabetes, right? Kept flooding back in my head. And it began to shake the ground I was standing on, because I was putting my faith in those results. I was putting my faith in what, I believe chiropractic to be. And so, it kind of comes back to that same story we were talking about with the straps and the ropes and all that stuff. If what we're putting our faith in is the wrong thing, and it's not trustworthy, and it's not completely true, right? We can't put our faith in it. And that's where kind of my chiropractic world got shooken. Didn't mean I stopped practicing. It didn't mean I stopped adjusting people, but I kind of changed the tone in how I told that story, right? Because my faith had been shaken, and I was wondering, like, okay, I believe it. I know that chiropractic is great and the body functions better without interference. But why my daughter? Why she's been adjusted since birth? Why does she have diabetes? Right? Why does none of my other kids have it? And it became this, thing, and God kind of handed me that humble pie, right? We could go, okay, I have to eat what I've been preaching, you know. And so I was kind of wrestling with this, and really it's been what, 6 years now since that diagnosis and all that. She's doing great, but I was still unsettled. And this last DE that kept coming up to me, it kept popping up in my head. It was one of those husks that kept being pulled off, right? And exposing things that I believe to be true that really I didn't believe fully because of my experience there. And so made a phone call to a good friend, Neil Cohen, who has some similar experience in this, and really started talking with him, and he started laying out some things with me. And so what we started talking about was this whole idea of full faith, right? And in chiropractic, when we talk about accepting chiropractic in full faith, there's a couple different parts to chiropractic. There's the promise of chiropractic, right? And the promise of chiropractic, when we talk about it, you know, as Neil was telling me, he's like, the promise is if I make that adjustment, I can promise to make the adjustment, right? Not really make the adjustment, right? I'm moving the bone. God's doing the healing. The body's making the adjustment. And Nate's making the adjustment. But we make that adjustment, the body's better, right? And that's what Dr. Sid said. You're better, right? But sometimes we take on not the promise of chiropractic. We don't put our full faith in the promise of chiropractic that I can detect and correct the subluxation and your body's going to be better. But we start to put our faith in the potential of chiropractic, right? And the potential of chiropractic is different for every single person. I can adjust that subluxation and one person's hearing will come back. I can adjust that subluxation and somebody's low back pain will go away, right? And so we start to attach our faith and our belief in the chiropractic principles to the result, right? Or to the potential, because really that potential, when we make the adjustment or when the adjustment is made, the body has an immense potential to heal. But I have no idea what that potential is in that person, right? And so I'm lying to them if I say your low back pain is going to go away, right? Because that's not truth. The truth is I made the adjustment. Your body's better. Yes, low back pain goes away. Awesome, right? But the potential is what we can't promise, right? If we promise the potential, we're always going to be let down in one way or another. And it's one of those things. I got checked by this again this past week. I adjust a lot of babies in the office, a lot of kids, and we had an incredible experience where a father called the office and said, my son is not walking well. He's kind of got a limp. Not doing great. We took him to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician said, "Okay, you need to go. We'll get some X-rays, make sure he doesn't have a problem in the hip." And so they did that, all right. And then the pediatrician said, "Okay, it doesn't seem to be their problem in the hip, but go see one of our chiropractors." And so in Orlando, there's Orlando Health, which is a huge hospital system, and supposedly they have chiropractors on staff. But they went to the chiropractor, and the chiropractor, looked at the dad and said, "Yep, there's nothing wrong with him. He's good. We'll see you later," and didn't even touch the kid. And so the father called our office, almost distraught, and Tasha, who's an amazing office manager for us, took the call and said, "Bring him in right away." Dr. Alex was in that day, and he checked him, adjusted his atlas, got him clear, and then said, "Hey, come back tomorrow. Dr. Josh will be here. He's the one who specializes in the kids." And so came back the next day. I did my exams. Hip was tender, but not, clunking when I put pressure on it, right? And so we all go through this diagnosis thing that we learned in school, and we go, "Okay, what's wrong? Aside from the subluxation, make sure he doesn't have a broken bone that we need to send him to heal up." But his dad understood what I was saying and said, "Okay, we're going to get him adjusted. We're going to keep him clear, and he's going to get better. He's going to be better." And in my mind, right, I was already ascribing the adjustment to making this kid walk better, to this kid playing better on the playground, right, to his dad being ecstatic about his life, right? And so I adjust him for the whole week. I see him every day because he wasn't holding his atlas adjustment very well. He would walk a little bit better after each adjustment, but then by the time he came back, it would be back to the way he was, limping, walking super slow. Some of the tenderness was moving around, and I was like, "What is going on here?" And then over the weekend, he had bouts of fever going up and down, up and down. And this is the part where they, start teaching you. You start thinking about the stuff that all the professors taught you in school. Where like, "Hey, there's something going on with his body here. I don't know what it is." And so just told the dad, hey, you should probably just get him checked out, make sure there's no bone infection that I'm not seeing on x-rays. And, you know, so the dad goes to the hospital later that day and calls the office, and his son's got full blown leukemia. Right. So my pride and my, you know, as- ascribing chiropractic adjustment to take care of that back pain or that hip pain or the kid's ability to walk, right, was totally off base. Right. Yes, I told the dad his son would be better. Right. But we have to open ourselves up and put our faith in the truth of what chiropractic is. Right. And that's what it's so amazing about chiropractic is it's built on principles that are deductive and reasoning, right? And so they go back to that higher power, that innate intelligence, right? That universal intelligence. And, in my mind, universal intelligence is God, right? That's where we're designed. And when we put our faith in that process, the deductive reasoning of, God's in control, we can let go of the rest. And as I was walking through this, Neil was talking, and I kept thinking about the expectations I have for my patients and the expectations that I have for um, our practice and the things that we do every single day. And I started thinking about what we have on the wall in the office: give, love, serve out of my own abundance with no expectation of return. Right. And many times in the DE world and in the chiropractic world, we always ascribe that expectation of return to financial. And chiropractic can be amazing financially, right? I have 4 kids, I need it to be amazing financially, right? But when I'm putting my expectation of return, right, not on financial, but on the results, it's the exact same thing. Right? We can't have an expectation of return in any way, whether that's miracles in my office, whether that's the financial side of it, right? Those expectations that we put on it, right? No expectation of return, right? We're delivering we're giving, we're loving, we're serving with no expectation of return, right? Knowing that when we make the adjustment, when we deliver the impulse that allows that body to be free from subluxation, that person is better, right? Outside of all the stuff that we ascribe to it. And so I want us to get back to that promise of chiropractic, the promise that when we deliver the adjustment, you're better, right? The body's going to function at its fullest potential, whether it's getting rid of those cancer cells that we don't know are there, right? Or whether it's healing a pancreas that we can't see needs healing. The body's doing what it needs to do. That innate intelligence is directing the show. And so that was the stuff that just kept flooding over in my brain, is these comments and these things that we say over and over in DE and in chiropractic, all those quotes, all those things that we believe, accept chiropractic in full faith, right? What are we putting the faith in? And giving, loving, and serving with no expectation of return. So I challenge you guys tonight to really think about it and give of yourself and give of your practice with no expectations. And let that freeing feeling allow to absolve you of all those guilts and all those things that are holding you back in practice. Because when we're held back by the fear or the lack of faith that we have, or the faith that we put in the wrong thing, right, it holds us back from achieving what God may have for us. And the potential we have as chiropractors to change lives by simply adjusting. So that's all I have for you guys tonight. I appreciate you guys being on, and my tagline down at the bottom is an inside joke. Some of my old friends from chiropractic school will get it. But I love you guys. I appreciate being able to share with you, and happy to talk with anybody anytime. So give us a shout. Love and appreciate you.
Hey, brother, thank you so much. You challenged everybody to kind of think about this and chew on that fat a little bit, right? And I think everybody has doubts and fears that come up. And again, faith overcomes fear when it comes from a place of love. And yeah, BJ always talked about take no credit, take no blame, right? And we move the bone, God does the healing, and we have no idea what their innate needs and what their universal intelligence that's what their innate is going to do is not up to us. Our body, our job is just move the bone, be specific, get them moved, and get out of the way and let that happen. And
Absolutely.
trust the system. So trust the body. Yeah. Thank you so much, man. Not only thank you for this talk, but thank you for what you're doing for the state of Florida and for chiropractic in general. And love and appreciate you, man. You made me go think about what I'm going to be doing before I go to bed tonight. So love and appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you. Love you, man.
Hope to see y'all. I won't be at DE in Sarasota, but hope everybody is, and I'll be watching you from virtually. Love and appreciate y'all. Have a great night.
Have fun. We'll see you later.
God bless you.
God bless.